Welcome and good evening to the City of Shakopee City Council meeting for November 15, 2016. Item number 1, if we could call the roll, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Luce.
Here.
Councilmember Lehman.
Here.
Mayor Mars.
Here.
Councilmember Whiting.
Here.
Councilmember Mokel.
Here.
Thank you very much. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, subtractions, deletions? Mr. Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one deletion, which is to remove 9A2 from the agenda this evening, and one addition, which you have on the table, which is to add 4C4 to the consent agenda, which would approve the street closures for 2016 Shakopee Holiday Festival.
All right, to reiterate, that's removal of 9A2
That's correct, sir.
and add 4C4.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any others? Commissioner Mokel, or Council Mokel?
I'd make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second. I have a second by Councilor Luce. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Modified agenda has been approved. Item number 4, consent agenda. Are there any adds, deletions, corrections? Councilmember Lehman?
4C4 is off consent.
Which one?
4C4.
4C4 off. You're good. Councilor Luce?
B4.
4B4?
4B5.
4B5? And Councilor Lehman?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as modified.
I have a motion by Lehman, a second by Luce, and this will include the removal of 4C4, 4B4, 4B5. And before we vote, we will read the modified consent into the record. Mr. Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These are the consent agenda items for November 15th of 2016. 4A1 adopts resolution number 7784, which orders a preliminary engineering report for the 2017 street reconstruction project and authorizes appropriate city officials to execute agreements with WSB and Associates, Inc. to perform engineering services and soil borings. 4B1 adopts resolution number 7799, which accepts a Toro Centennial Giving Program production donation. 4B2 approves the construction of batting cages by the Shakopee Youth Baseball Association at Westminster Park. 4B3 adopts resolution 7796, which accepts a playground grant from the Minnesota-Wisconsin Playground for the replacement of Emerald Lane and Hiawatha playgrounds. 4B6 declares audiovisual equipment, lighting, and office furniture held by the Parks and Recreation Department as surplus property and authorizes its proper sale or disposal. 4C1 approves the payment of bills and electronic transfers in the amount of $2,172,911.66. 4C2 adopts resolution number 7797, which declares the amount to be assessed, orders the preparation of proposed assessments, and sets the public hearing date for delinquent refuse bills. Also directs a $25 administrative fee to be added to each delinquent assessment for city costs if not paid in full by the public hearing date, and directs a $25 administrative fee to be added to each delinquent assessment for a public services, allied waste services costs if not paid in full by the public hearing date. And 4C3 adopts resolution number 7798, which closes the DARE Fines Special Revenue Fund.
Thank you. The modified consent agenda has been read into the record. No discussion. Councilor Luce?
Just have one discussion point. I came down after the previous council meeting where we talked about the trash bills.
Yep.
And I was charged an extra $50 at that point, and I was under the impression that that wouldn't go on until this point. So, can we get that cleared up?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Luce, this is actually that was actually a different public hearing. We had missed 2 parcels for the garbage collection process, so they weren't officially notified with the public hearing process, and so this is kind of going through that whole process again just for these 2 parcels. So that group that was in that previous delinquent garbage assessment roll. That charge did go on after the council did approve the assessment roll that evening and the night of the public hearing.
Counselor Lehman?
So what you're really saying is that what was applied to everybody in the past, at the past public hearing, is now being applied to two that were not notified, so that everybody's the same.
Right,
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay, we good? Modified consent? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, modified consent has been approved. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to call on any citizen resident that would like to come forward and speak on an item not on the agenda. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and welcome on an item not on the agenda. Seeing none, we will move forward then to item number 6, which is the business removed from consent. And we will start with 4B4, acceptance of school board, scoreboard donations from the Youth Hockey Association. And Councilmember Lehman?
First, 4B4 is the acceptance of multiple donations for the park, and that's Counselor Lewis's.
I apologize. Counselor Luce.
Yeah, I pulled this just so we can make sure that the people that need to be recognized get recognized. O'Brien Dental for a $5,000 donation, Alina Health for $1,000, I believe. And I would like to also thank Miss Pauley for taking part of her day off last Friday to come in and open up the playground. We did a soft opening at about 4:15. We had a lot of kids. There was a lot of kids over the weekend that benefited from the opening when it was open. Seeing that Friday it's gonna turn bad, so more kids that could get up there, the better off it is. So I thank you very much, and that's what I've got.
Excellent. Make a motion, Counselor Luce?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to adopt Resolution 7800, a resolution of the City of Shakopee accepting multiple donations of $1,000 or more for the Shakopee Fun for All Playground.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Counselor Lehman. Further discussion? Discussion that I've been to the park many times, and it's certainly very nice and getting used here, at least on the last couple, many sunny days. Great to see children enjoy the product of a lot of groups' efforts. Thank you all. Counselor?
Yeah, I did have one complaint. They said you're hogging the zip line.
Well, thank you all. I'll make sure to lay that off a little bit.
Take turns.
Yeah,
Take
take
turns,
turns.
play nice.
We'll play nice. Thank you very much. Further discussion? Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we will move to 4B5. Counselor Lehman?
That was Counselor Whiting's. Mayor.
Oh my gosh, can't keep them straight. Counselor?
Thank you, and this will be, maybe the mayor knows or staff, this is regarding the resolution to accept a donation from the Youth Hockey Association for $45,000 for a scoreboard. I appreciate that donation, and think that's great. But I remembered in discussions about the ice arena that the youth hockey had a lot more money that they were planning on donating, and I wondered if there was any discussions about that.
Ms. Polly?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I did meet with the president of the Youth Hockey Association on many occasions and also today to discuss. We tried to go back into, past conversations. What we have found, I do have their financial records, they have set aside $50,000 that's been in their account to go to the ice arena for many years, since 2010 when we did that referendum. Had the referendum passed in 2010, looking back at their presentations, they were going to raise additional funds to, a little bit over $100,000. There wasn't an exact amount set, but they were committed to that. They had kind of taken a break on the second sheet until this last construction was approved. However, talking to the Hockey Association president today, they're very committed to the arena. They are funding in the dryland area a synthetic ice that is theirs to keep. So even if the dryland company that is leasing the space moves out, that synthetic ice stays there as part of the fixed part of the arena. But they are willing and ready to commit over time to help raising more funds for the ice arena, just as our other associations do to continually update. But what they had in a fund for the second sheet is what they've given us for these scoreboards.
Thank you.
Other questions? I think this is a great donation as well, 45,000. They are one of our either the largest or second largest user, of which they're paying rent for, but this is certainly a nice donation from that group.
And I appreciate that. I just remembered the larger amount discussion and wondered where that had gone.
Mr. Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I can certainly recall when I first came on board, there were certainly discussions of a lot larger amount than $50,000 as I was coming on board and we were talking with the various groups in regards to how we were going to move the project forward. So that was my recollection as well.
Counselor Mokel?
And as long as we're recalling, I believe that the dry ice was supposed to be separate from that donation that they promised us, so those are
It-
things that we want to.
Yes, and that is, that way they actually took out of their savings account to help donate to that, but they do have an agreement with the Dryland Company that it is their property and will remain with the ice sheet no matter who's in there. So it's a benefit to the kids to have that synthetic ice. I believe that was about $40,000 as well.
Counselor Lewis?
Yeah, I think this is a great step forward on their part. I hope they continue to be generous with the arena. I did look up their 501(c), and I do know what they are sitting on, and it's a nice chunk of change, so.
Counselor?
Yeah, thank you. Please spread our concern
Sure,
with
I
the
will.
youth hockey
They are very
president.
well aware of it, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor? Whiting?
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 7801, a resolution of the City of Shakopee accepting a donation of $45,000 from the Shakopee Youth Hockey Association.
I have a motion by Whiting, a second by Mokel. Further discussion? Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. 4C4, Counselor Lehman. Did I get this one right?
4C4, yep, that's mine.
All right.
This was on the table tonight. I'm not in the habit of putting things that are on the table on the consent agenda. Mayor, and I also think it's a great opportunity for us to take just a minute to tell the general public what's happening. December 2nd, 6 to 8, downtown between 1st and 2nd, Holmes and Lewis. They're gonna have, carriage rides. I think one of the schools is
The sax
choir's
choir.
gonna be singing, the Christmas tree's gonna get put up and lit up and stuff, so, streets will be closed for pedestrian walking and stuff.
And
I
the
don't-
shops will be open.
Shops are gonna be open. I don't know if this is out there yet, so I thought it's a great opportunity to get this information out by not just putting it on consent.
I heard there was a rumor that Santa Claus might be coming too.
Really? Wow, that'd be special.
Kind of early.
Well, I just heard that, so.
Counselor Lewis?
This is all on our website, I hope.
Chambers, I would imagine.
Chambers.
Certainly on the chambers, and I'm
Yeah.
sure that we've got some
So
links to
people, in
it.
case they want to look it up, to where they can go.
With that being said, Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the street closings for the festival.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Counselor Lewis. Further discussion? Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Moving ahead then, we would stand for recess to the EDA. Counselor Whiting?
Make a motion to recess to the Economic Development Authority meeting.
Counselor Mokel?
I'll second.
I have a second by Mokel. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. We are in recess for the EDA.
I will call the EDA to order. Can you make note of the roll, please? And Counselor Lehman?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second? I have a second by Counselor Whiting. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Go 5-0. Counselor Lehman?
Make a motion to approve the consent business, which is the EDA bill list.
Second by Mr. Mars. And any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes 5-0. Counselor Mokel, go ahead.
I make a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, December 20th, 2016 at 7 PM.
Any discussion on that? Do I have a second?
Second.
Counselor Whiting. And all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We are adjourned till Tuesday, December 20th, 2016 at 7 PM.
I was trying to get you a new record.
Wow. You
Chairman.
run a very efficient meeting, President.
Take note.
That is.
Take note.
We'll reconvene this city council meeting for the city of Shakopee for November 15th, 2016. We are all the way up to 9A1, text amendment, and Michael will present.
Mayor and council, this is just a minor amendment to change the side yard requirement on corner houses. Several of the engineering firms in town pointed out that since 2009, they've been able to figure out a way to keep our 50-foot site triangle, and even the larger 100-foot site triangle can be covered. So we would recommend, the planning commission did hear this and approved it 6-0. So staff is recommending that we go ahead and make this change. It will allow in some of the larger subdivisions to have a lot or two more, because we had required a larger lot on the corner.
Okay. Questions of staff, Counselor Lehman?
Is it the same for the front and the side, or just the front is changing?
Just the side is changing, the front will
Side is
remain.
changing.
So,
So,
Currently, it's 30 feet, we're changing it to 20 feet on the side.
okay.
And so the front setback will remain the same, so the house will just scoot over a little, but you can see from
So
the.
they'll all be in a line down the street?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
so the site triangle, it doesn't really make it smaller, it just changes the angle of the triangle, is that correct?
Correct, Mayor.
Counselor White?
Any safety concerns with shrinking that site triangle? Or?
The 50-foot triangle is the largest concern we have, and it has no impact on that. I think that staff's concern really is that a 6-foot fence would have a bigger impact, so we'll work with the engineering staff to make sure that when we issue our permits for fences, that we stay out of the larger site triangle.
Can I ask how, this is brought forward by the city then? More like an administrative change? How would this impact any homeowners?
Mayor and council, it shouldn't impact any homeowners except someone who might be submitting a permit shortly for a house. One of our planners, a couple of engineering firms called and said, we kind of remember this, but it's starting to have an impact on some of the designs of these subdivisions. Would you be willing to relook at it? Because we feel from a site triangle standpoint, we're going to be okay. And so staff looked at it and recommended the change.
Other questions, Counselor Mokel?
So to clarify, this is just for new construction.
Correct.
That was my question.
Yep.
And then I have one more. If the fence permit comes in on the corner lot, if it's a chain link or something that you can see through, is that treated differently than one that you can't see through?
Mayor and Councilmember Lehman, I'll let the city engineer answer that, but I believe we allow 32 inches in the front yard. So
4
we
feet.
regulate the fences pretty significantly right now.
Other discussion? Okay. Or, more questions of staff? And if not, Counselor Whiting?
I'll make a motion and offer ordinance number 950, an ordinance approving the text amendment regarding setbacks from the streets and minimum lot widths as proposed, and move its adoption.
I have a motion and
Second.
a second by Counselor Lehman. Further discussion? Counselor Lehman?
We didn't touch on the minimum lot width, but minimum is 60 feet, correct? Sorry.
Michael?
Mayor and Councilmember, that's correct.
We good? Further discussion? Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much. Now we're gonna move to 9A2, an ordinance for the city of Shakopee, and Mr. Reynolds will present.
No, sir, that's been pulled. We're at,
Oh, I apologize, look at that.
we're now at 9B1.
Terrible trick. I see that, they are. All right, well, meeting adjourned then. That's all the way at the bottom. Did I miss anything?
Second.
Let's move then to 9B1, authorization of a contract, and Miss Polly will present. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is brought forward to you tonight to enter into a contract with WSB and Associates for the design and specifications and construction services, at this point for Topa West field improvements. This is a 2017 project that was allocated and discussed during our Park CIP plan review. So in our Park Reserve Fund for 2017, the council allocated money for one field at Topa Park West and then phase 2 of Corey Lake Park, barring funding coming in. So I did put in the memo that our current fund balance in our Park Reserve Fund is a little over $1 million. We have 450 that's still dedicated to phase 1 of Corey Lake Park, leaving the remaining as a balance to go towards those 2017 projects. At this time, I'm not asking you to move forward with the project of building the ball field. We just need to provide final plans and specifications to be ready for bid it. I'm asking for this to go forward at this point because the bidding climate is the best in late winter, early spring. So if we can work now to get these plans put in place, we can be prepared to bid the project in that February, March timeframe, if we are willing to go forward with the project at that time and get some favorable bids. If we wait until that time to start design, we're bidding midsummer, and our bids, if it's like this year, our bids could be higher because everybody's busy already by then. So I'm requesting to move forward then.
Questions of staff? Counselor Lewis?
I don't know if Ms. Paula can answer this, but someone should be able to. Where are we on park dedication funds coming in, like Hy-Vee and some of the other projects that are going on around town?
We have received Hy-Vees. I did actually print the latest one out. Let's see. We have received Hy-Vee of $92,000. That was the most recent. The last ones came in July from Ivy Properties, which I'm not sure what that is, but that was $113,000. Oh, I believe that was a second installment of Henderson. So the ones that have been brought in are coming in. The ones we haven't received yet that we're still waiting for, that's gone to council for approval, is the phase 1 development of the Sand Company's apartment complex over in Southbridge area. So that's still anticipated to come in. I think that's the only one that's been approved at this point. We still have other ones in the works of people, but nothing that council's approved a final plat for yet.
The Sands is about 150, I think.
No, it was around 300,000 with their first phase. The total project was a little over $1 million for their entire build-out.
The reason I brought up 150, I thought the park was 300, park dedication was 300, and I thought we cut that back.
No, that is for the one we cut back, which you're correct, Mr. Mayor, is not on here, is also the apartment complex next to Target. And that's
apologize. You're correct.
162,000, I believe, is yet to come in.
Correct, not the one on the east end.
That's the MWF properties. Mhm.
So the question I guess that I'm looking at, the $1 million, is that's of a couple weeks ago, or?
That report, and that's our cash in hand, so Mr. Nelson can maybe speak if that's any different, but that I printed off last week. So it's as of the 8th of November is when I printed that off.
Not a problem. Then we got a couple, just a
One more
few
coming.
coming in. Okay, Mr. Reynolds?
I'll just note, Mr. Mayor, that Ms. Paula and I have been in preliminary conversations with the school district in regards to partnering with us in this particular project. We hope to have some news about that in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. In addition to that, the Baseball Association has come forward, I did put that in my memo, that if we decide to go forward with this project, they are going to be donating a substantial amount of money to help get this first field built. We have in our Park Reserve allocated the full amount, that $373,000 is what we allocated in there. Our cost estimate for phase 1 is $373,000, so if the school district contributes and the Baseball Association contributes $100,000, that amount that we've allocated in our Park Reserve will go down, and we can reallocate that to a future phase or to Corey Lake second phase, that sort of thing.
Counselor Whiting?
And we know with the usage of the parks and the ball fields that these fields are needed. and will be booked out pretty well.
Yeah, and this particular field that we're looking to, I can put it up here, that we're looking to build is really more in replacement of the baseball field that was eliminated on the high school site. With that being said, that's why we are discussing it with the school district, but a field is heavily used by our youth association as well. And the school district at this time doesn't have a plan to replace that. They've got a couple different ideas, but this is the full build-out kind of plan of Tapa West. It's about a little under 10 acres. We are looking to build this full-size field right now, not with the grand center and everything. It's going to be the basic field in phase one. A different phase would be to build out the press box and that sort of thing. And then this is a 12, 13-year-old field that would be a future phase down the road as well. But baseball association, as well as our school district teams, feel that the bigger field is the most needed at this time versus the smaller field.
Counselor Lehman?
Does the proposal in front of us include the future smaller field?
Yes, no, it does not include the design of the smaller field. It does include all of the site preparation for that field, but not the actual field fencing and infield at this time, no.
Okay, but they're gonna do the surveying and,
Yep, the phase one, that's included in the 44,000 design includes grading and complete site prep of the entire area.
So we would be site-ready if we
Correct.
wanted to move forward at a later date on the youth field.
Correct.
That's a plus.
yep, that is a
Counselor
plus.
Lehman? Or Counselor Lutz?
When this is site-ready, is this something that public, or the Parks Department could take care of putting this field in, being all the grading is done? Will there be sod in?
They have built fields before, but that would be something we definitely would have to discuss. Right now, they're very busy. So I think it depends. Once we get the final plans put together, we'll decide what the cost estimate is and then really sit down and maybe we go to bid, see how the bids come in versus what our cost would be and our time availability. But
Other questions of staff, Counselor Lehman?
Mayor, I think where I'm at right now is I think we do this site prep and study and stuff and then, you know, if they wanna put it out for bids, you can always reject the bids if you don't have the partners lined up to step up and help us out. You really don't know all the unknowns, so I'm kinda leaning toward going ahead with this part of it, but I'm not necessarily ready to support the project until we get there.
Counselor Whiting?
Well, that opens up another question. Would it be cheaper to design both of these beforehand and have the plans for both? As far as the, you talked about the site work, but the final design and specifications for bidding, would that be better to do all in one package to get a better deal?
possibly, I'd have to speak with WSB on that.
Counselor Lehman?
Mayor, my thought is, if they're gonna do the site prep work and, what am I thinking?
Grading.
Grading and stuff, the youth field, probably could be put in by staff.
Or when we bid it, we could
At a
put it
later
as an
date.
alt too.
Well, you could bid it as an alt, or you could come back later if we even go ahead with the big one. And then, a year later or whatever, if it's all graded out and stuff, you'll know better where your water drainage is going and how everything's working out. I just don't see the little field as something that's extremely technical and precise.
Bruce?
Mayor, members of council, I don't think it would cost a whole lot more to grade the whole site for both fields, because you need to do that for drainage and then how everything's gonna fit, otherwise, it just isn't a good design. You're not doing a full design, so grading the site would be the way to go. I think you mentioned something, could we go and do some seeding? We have a seeder, we have things that could, seed the site if it's properly graded and prepared. That's something we could look into. But I would recommend that you at least get the site designed for grading, and that doesn't take a whole lot more. But it shouldn't. It should have been it probably is in their packet, or it shouldn't be a whole lot more.
Mr. Loney, that is included
My
in.
understanding is it is in the
Yeah.
package.
Yeah.
Correct.
If it is, then that's the right way to do it.
Right. I think for now, are there any other questions of staff? If not, thank you very much. Kind of prudent here, if we can get the other site graded and ready to go for the most part, then we actually can do a lot of flexibility. Yes, no, what's the cost? May we build it as an alt? If the cost comes in real high, take it out, don't even do it. At least we'll have some sort of baseline price for the future.
Where's our partners?
Right, well, or,
Right.
right. So, that's kinda how I see it. Great, Counselor Whiting?
I'll make a motion to authorize the appropriate staff to enter into an agreement with WSB and Associates for the preparation and final design specifications, bidding documents, and construction administration for the development of one ball field at Topop Park west of, for the amount not to exceed $44,800.
Second.
Counselor Lewis seconds that. Further discussion? 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 All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I think I found the flaw in your, not the timing. I only ask if there's discussion once. You asked 3 times. That's wasting
Okay.
time.
Robert's rule is 3.
Robert's rules is 3. Maybe I can speed that up, but thank you. That is
Cut corners.
point of efficiency. Let's move forward.
We're way ahead.
Let's move ahead to 9C1, sanitary sewer rate increase, and Mr. Nelson will present.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Before you tonight is an ordinance to adjust the 2016 fee schedule for a sanitary sewer rate increase that would become effective in 2017. Normally, we'd probably wait till the end of the year when we do the rest of our fee adjustments for the 2017 year, but I want to get this, if we do increase rates, over to Shakopee Public Utilities so they have time to program that into their system as well. As you may know, this is a lot of information that we went over at the work session last week as well, but I just wanted to reiterate it again tonight. Both the sanitary sewer and the surface water funds implemented rate increases as of January 1st, 2016, and I would believe that was the first year in a handful of years that we'd increase the rates. This rate increase was a result of a budget work session that was held back in July of 2015, which revealed the need for multi-year increases for the sanitary sewer fund. And tonight, staff is recommending an 8% increase in the variable rate and a 50% increase in the flat fixed rate fee, which is a monthly per account fee.
You said 50%.
50
I mean,
cents.
50 cents, not 50%. Did I say 50%? I bet. Sorry.
Money guys are out. They know how to do it.
Gotta watch it.
Sleight of hand is all it is. What we're finding is that the flow rate charge per 1,000 gallons is not keeping pace with the Met Council service charge. Met Council service charge for 2017, I did some calculations, and they actually would turn out to be about $2.66 per 1,000 gallons billed. The city's 2016 sewer rate is $2.24. So right there, we had a difference of about 42 cents per 1,000 gallons being lost, which equates to about $420,000 annually just for the MCES charge, which is, MCS is the Met Council Environmental Services service charge. I put the parenthesis in the wrong spot. And from what I've heard and what Met Council has been telling us for the last few years is that we can expect to see about 5.5% increases for the next 3 to 5 years. They're kind of in the same boat a lot of cities are in with aging infrastructure. They need to put some money back into that to refurbish that to maintain their asset that they have on the books. So the kicker is that our sewer charge is $2.24 per thousand. Met Council rate we figured was about $2.66. However, the MCS charge is only 75% of our total operational budget. So above and beyond that MCS charge, we have our own operational expenses to maintain our sewer system. And so that amounts to about, that's the other 25%, and that increases that loss then to about $884,000 a year for 2017, and that's with an anticipated 8% increase in the rates. In addition to our monthly, the variable rate factor that we charge, we also charge a flat fixed fee, and that's rate for 2016, that's $6 per month per account. And that generates about $846,000 for 2016. And so that can offset some of our operational expenditures. Unfortunately, though, we do have capital outlay out of the sewer fund that we need to account for each year as well. And just looking kind of at the forecast for the CIP for the next, 4 or 5 years, that can range from 500,000 to 1.5 million, depending on the types of projects and such. So in reality, that fixed fee should be dedicated to the infrastructure, to capital outlay, not necessarily going to cover our deficit on the operational side of it. And some of those items that the capital outlay would benefit towards are the street reconstruction projects, the sewer specific part of that, sewer lining projects, lift station rehabs, et cetera. So, as I mentioned before, the sky isn't falling with the sewer fund. This is, we're running at a deficit, but that's okay. We have had sufficient cash balances, cash reserves in that fund for a number of years, and that's, attributed to the council and management of that fund over the years. At the end of this year, we'll have about $10 million of liquidity in that fund. However, we're running an operational deficit of about $800,000, what we mentioned before, and so $800,000 a year can reduce that liquidity pretty quickly. Looking back at the end of 2014, we had about 12.7 million sitting in there. So you can see over a couple of years, you can drop about $1 million a year. And so, and here's a chart basically kind of extrapolating what our cash balances may be or should look like with our CIP expenditures plugged in there for the next 5 years as well. You can see the top line is our cash balance, and it starts out in 2017 at about $8 million at the end of 17, and then ends up at 2021 at about $6 million or so. And you can see the blue lines here are the revenues coming in, and the red bars are the expenditures for the year as well, and they include capital and operational expenses. And so you can see that for a number of years, the expenditures do outpace the revenues. That 2019 year is kind of an anomaly. It's a project that has large special assessments tied to it, so if that project does take place, there are some offsetting expenditures or revenues coming in to offset the expenditures. So that's why that year the revenues are kind of equal the expenditures. So with that, I know we talked last week at our work session that staff is looking at doing an in-depth analysis of our sewer rates and probably looking at our surface water rates too for the long term in 2017. We talked about what is an appropriate fund balance, and right now we have a fund balance policy that states we need to cover 100% of our depreciation. Well, that's a great policy to have if you can do that, but it's not necessarily needed. You don't need, right now we have $14 million of accumulated depreciation. We don't need $14 million in reserves right now, because when we do a project, we're not replacing all the infrastructure that 1 year. It's going to be a multi-year phase project. So we really need to learn and understand what an appropriate fund balance is. My gut feeling, it's probably in that $7 million range. So we're probably looking like we're going to be at a decent spot in 2021, but I'd like to take some further analysis to really look at it and really delve down into the details of that. And we really need to look into the long-term future of that too, even beyond 10 years. Look at 20 years. Look at, if we're looking at annexing land, will we have new customer accounts coming on? Will we have expenditures to bring that infrastructure out there? We really need to really take that into consideration as well too when we're looking at the long-term sustainability of this fund. So those are all the things that we're going to be looking at in 2017. So here is a cost comparison of the sanitary sewer cost comparison of, these are our comparable cities, and I did include a couple cities that aren't our comparables, such as Prior Lake and Chaska, which aren't in our official new set of comparable cities, but I forgot to take them out, but it's kind of nice to have some cities that are close by in here as well. And you can see Shakopee is the sanitary sewer cost is very low, and really that's due to, we're below what that Met Council charge is, and that's why we're so low. And we're able to do that because we have sufficient cash reserves on hand. And so I plugged in the 2017 rate. If we increased it 8%, that blue bar would then represent the 2017 cost factor, and this is based off of about 5,000 gallons per month usage.
Darren, before you move on from this slide, this makes for a great graphic, but I'm kind of looking at over on the left side, the Blaines, the Shakopees, Maplewood, Lakeville. Those are some communities that have had tremendous growth just in the last 10 or 15 years, where that infrastructure is not that old. And I look over on the right side and I see older, what I classify as older communities, Inver Grove Heights, you know, maybe not Prior Lake to the extent, but Coon Rapids, Burnsville, Golden Valley, with, you know, communities that have been built out or very close to it that haven't had great growth, where that infrastructure now is 20 or 30 plus years old, and so their costs are up. Is that, how should we be looking as a town that has doubled their population in the last 15 years, but really some of that infrastructure is newer and doesn't have that high cost base to begin with?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, council members, I think you really have to look at, it's kind of multi-factored, I think, but it's, I know Blaine, coming from a city that was close to there, they were a contiguous city to us, so we always used them in our comparables, and, you know, they were always right on the far left of that, and it's really that new development. I think they're living off of, you know, some of the trunk fees that are coming in, so I think they're maybe in a similar situation that you're not paying for the true operating cost of it. You got some of the development costs that are maybe paying for part of that, or subsidizing part of the sewer fund as well on the operational side of it. You know, I'd look at some of the other cities, like in Inver Grove Heights, they do have quite a few newer areas in Inver Grove Heights as well too. So obviously they got an older part, but we got an older part as well too. So it's kind of give and take, and it's really, each city kind of does it a little bit differently on how they handle that.
Bruce?
Mayor, members of council, there's a couple of things that's in Shakopee's favor. One is we're not an I&I city. Some of these cities, if you have high I&I, you're paying for that treatment cost. So
Tell the folks at home what Iana.
what's that?
Wanna
Oh,
tell the-
I&I is inflow and infiltration. It's water that's not necessarily going down your sewer pipes, it's coming into the sewer pipes from groundwater or rainwater.
And we're paying to treat it.
And we pay for that treatment. So we're good in that aspect. The other thing is, we have been, over the years, been able to upgrade our system. So we have very few lines that are left to upgrade, and we have a lot of new pipe. So overall, I'd give our system a pretty good grade. And thirdly, we don't have a lot of lift stations. That's been Prior Lake has 40 or 42 or whatever it is. So that adds a lot of your maintenance costs and operation costs. So we have three good things going for us.
Great. Counselor Lehman?
Well, I took some notes here. First thing I would say is citizens that pay these bills need to know a couple of things. One is there's a line item on your property taxes from the Met Council that we don't really know exactly what they're doing with it, but you can expect that to go up on top of the fee to treat the sewage that they pass on to the city that is in your actual bill that you're paying for your sewer. So what we're talking about tonight is the increase from the Met Council to us to treat the sewage in your sewer. That's passed from us, we collect it, we give it to them. They're raising that, not us. We're just a pass-through conduit. They're also most likely gonna raise your line item on your property taxes for whatever it is they're using that for. Which means you should go ask that body what exactly they're doing with your money. Now, as far as this chart in front of me, I'm looking at this, and I think it's a poor comparison, and I'll tell you why. Each system is its own system. Like the engineer pointed out, many variables go into these systems. Second part I would say is that based on the size of the community, these charts are going to be different. A smaller community has less sanitary sewer cost maintenance than a larger city. So it's kind of, unless you really broke down the actual miles of pipe to have a really comparable, you can't do it just by looking at various cities. Third thing I would say is that being on the low side, whether it's taxes or your fees for services or whatever, is a good thing. Most people want their government to be effective and efficient with their tax dollars. I heard you say something about new development. You know, we're going to need all this money to help pay for that. No, I believe new development should pay for itself. If it doesn't, we shouldn't be growing. And I'm looking forward to the workshop to discuss our sewer fund, storm fund, building fund, and equipment fund, because when we talk about the sewer fund, we're depreciating 100%, and we're coming back after, 20, 30 years lining these things to get much longer life out of them at a substantially reduced cost. When you depreciated it in the past, you're looking at it as 100% pipe replacement, which is pretty expensive. You're not looking at it from the standpoint of actually coming back, not doing a total pipe replacement, but lining the pipe, and so that depreciation percentage, when we have that discussion, I'll bring that up again. So I think there's a lot of different variables. I understand that the Met Council is passing on an increase to us. I get it. We're gonna pass it on to the end user. Don't have a problem with that per se. I'm looking forward to the bigger discussion.
Great. Further comment, at least on this slide, kind of stopped him in his presentation here,
go ahead.
Counselor
Go
Lewis?
ahead. Go ahead.
On this slide? Otherwise, we'll proceed, and then we can talk some more.
And I just had one other comparison too. There's a, AE2S is a consulting firm that does a metro-wide survey or a statewide survey every year, and they break it down by metro, kind of the metro area as well, so we get a little bigger sample size of where we're at. And I do have a little note on here for Savage, is that Savage actually reported their survey results incorrectly on that end of it. They didn't report the Met Council share of their Senate or their MCS charge, so their actual charge would be about $26.95 a month. So they're down in the kind of the middle pack or middle high part of that pack. And here again, you can see there are some of those newer cities with newer development, Maple Grove, Eagan, that have on the low end of the spectrum there as well too. So with that, staff is recommending approval of ordinance number 952, amending the 2016 fee schedule to increase the sewer demand rate from $2.24 to $2.42 per 1,000 gallons, and then to increase the monthly fee from $6 to $6.50 per month per account. And this change would be effective with the first billing in 2017. It wouldn't be effective immediately. It'd be the first billing in 2017.
Now we can go, questions for staff? Okay. Counselor Lewis?
I spoke to Mr. Loney a little earlier, and I believe you said we've got about 3 to 4 years left on recons, and then we're pretty much caught up.
Yes, that is correct. I mean, again, our system is pretty good shape. We got Shakopee Avenue, one side of Marshall next year, Shakopee Avenue on the other side. And I think there's some areas down here by Levy Drive. But they're very small, so we're getting to the point where we won't have to be ripping out pipe. But we can and we've almost all our pipeline. We do have a few areas, I'm not saying but the major ones, 2 to 3 years.
Further on that, I believe we had spoke also about the costs, and the city's cost is just under $300,000 per year that we're taking out of the sewer fund for these recons.
That's correct. Last year's 2016 was 300,000.
So we're not hitting it too hard.
Darren?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lewis, that's just for the street reconstruction piece of that, though. We also do the sewer lines, which are part of the capital outlay, and other miscellaneous items that come out.
Right, I'm just going after the big
Oh,
ticket.
yeah. Okay. All right, thank you.
I guess I have a question on, I have my utility bill here from Spuck, which they collect for us on this. So my sewer charge was $10.48. Is the base rate in there?
It is.
So the base rate plus the flow charge, right?
Right.
Okay. And it's in the sewer rate and the storm drainage we're not talking about?
Storm drainages, we're recommending keeping the same.
Only the sewer, okay. And I know, just to preface this, we're looking at what apparently is an 8% increase and a 50-cent increase on the base rate, but on the flow rate, it's 18 cents. And I know that
Per thousand.
Huh?
Per thousand.
Per 1,000.
And the average is 6,000.
Right.
Is that right?
Yep, 5,000 or 6,000 is.
I'm just trying to put some context in it all, because I know 8% sounds like a ton, and 8% is 8%. There's no getting away from that. But I just want to bring that up a little bit. And Councilor Whiting?
You know, and we don't like to raise fees, and this is basically a pass-through. And we're not collecting all the fees that we're spending, we're putting out to the Met Council. We're taking some of that hit on our sewer fund. So I see it as, we're doing kind of right sizing. I don't know if you want to call it right sizing. There's some better ways to use, like you talked about, the lining of the sewers now. It's cheaper to maintain our sewers now. So it's unfortunate, but the city's getting charged this already, so we have to pay this out. So to me, we have to, we're kind of forced to push this back along to the customer, I guess. It's unfortunate, but it's the way it works.
Counselor Lehman and then Counselor Lewis.
I don't disagree with anything Councilor Whiting has just said. However, we as representatives of our citizens, along with our citizens, should be asking the Met Council, why are you pushing forward with a 5% increase so many years in a row? And we should be asking them to be as efficient as possible with their money, taxpayer money.
Counselor,
Just,
or
we talked a little bit about it at our workshop. Of course, we didn't make any decisions, but we know the Met Council is trying to do a lot better with the water that's going back into the rivers. They did a big project on our Blue Lake facility to reduce phosphorus that's going back in. So there's a lot of costs involved in that, and they're trying to do a better job. I'm not going to stand up here and say that the Met Council's not fleecing us, but there's a lot more. There's a lot more work into the process now than there used to be.
Bruce?
Mayor, members of the council, I can answer Matt's question or concern. The Met Council for years was relying on the SAC charge for a lot of their rehabilitation. When, they used to collect 20,000 sacks a year when things were booming. When the shutdown came or the slowdown came, they didn't have that money. But the rehabilitation and the redoing of the sewer pipes, or redoing of the waste treatment plants was still there, was depreciating, and we had a big study, and study was leave the SAC alone, start raising the rate to start covering. They're spending like $100 million a year for the next few years. That's why you're gonna see 5 to 6% increase for the next 5 to 6 years.
Counselor Lewis?
Yeah, I went down to Spuck today and I got 3 different bills. One of them's mine, 2 of them are Spuck employees, so that nobody thinks that we got, they agreed to exchange the information. One of them has an average of 7, the other one has an average of 9. One of them has a consistent 4. I've been called jokingly a bad customer. I only have 4. My total rate increase next year is gonna be $6.72.
For the year?
For the year.
$6 and change?
So, I'm looking at mine as probably some of the more senior citizens in our area, and I think their water usage is slightly above mine. So I'm thinking of them, I'm thinking, they might have a $10, $12 increase for the year. So, I'm somewhat comfortable with that, but I still don't like raising them, but, that's part of the deal.
Can we get a motion on the table, or Counselor Lehman?
The Met Council just added all these solar panels down at the Blue Lake Treatment Center right here on 101. Now, did they spend that money to reduce their overhead price and save us $1 long term? Or should they have spent that money on infrastructure? I don't know the answers. Maybe they're doing everything right. I'm saying that we as the citizenry that pay them should know these things and ask them these questions so that we feel comfortable with what they're doing.
Counselor Lewis?
Well, I can tell you what they're doing. They sidestepped our franchise fee. They're gonna use that power to power their plant and not buy it from us.
Yep.
This is a policy for the city, and I know the Met Council is involved here in regard to their fee increases here, but try to look out for the best interest of Shakopee, and I do appreciate your comments about the Met Council. I think that's we go from the impact right here on the local resident all the way up to the Met Council, which is your regional sewer body, and we're talking about $400,000 here, and the Met Council's talking about $100 million for their project. So it kind of goes big picture down to here, and I guess always try to look out for the best interest of the resident here for our community as best. This rate will, if approved, will not equal the Met Council's rate. We will still be subsidizing them. Counselor Whiting?
I'll offer ordinance number 952, amending the city's adopted 2016 fee schedule for an increase in the sanitary sewer rates effective with the first billing in January 2017.
I have a motion and a second by Counselor Loose.
I would second, but I would like to put a little amendment on that, that when we do have our discussion, that we may change this once we figure out where we want to be with our sewer fund.
Well, let's wait till we look at the study here this spring. I mean, and then we usually adjust these yearly,
I'll take back the amendment and I'll
Okay.
second it.
That's fine. Counselor Lehman?
Mayor, I was just gonna say, once you set this, it's for the year.
Right.
You're not gonna come back midstream and change things. At least I wouldn't recommend that. But after we do a study and figure out, what we really need to have, it may go up more. Or it may stay what the recommendation is, or it might come down just a little bit. And then we'll just incorporate that into the future long-term plan. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, we're gonna see an in-depth study, a long-term, about the sewer rate fund and the cost there. I mean, we're gonna have to have some hypotheticals of what the Met Council does in that, but we'll see. Put a motion on the table. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We will move forward then with item number 10, liaison administration reports, and I think we're gonna start down here. Counselor Loose?
I didn't have any liaison meetings this week, or the past week, but I do want to let everyone know that the inclusive playground is wide open. Come on up and use it as long as you can. And I want to thank staff that helped us out finishing it up, getting the grading finished, and as I did, I thank Ms. Polly for opening it up as soon as she could. So that's my report.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Counselor Lehman?
169 Corridor Coalition, just two items. One, I was asked to join their executive body, and the other is we had a good discussion about the capacity issue on 169 at 101, 13, 21, whole thing there. And I raised a point that, we're worried as a body about the loss of existing capacity with a min-pass lane. And it appears that the study is looking at a couple different options. One option is there may be additional capacity capability on the inner areas, even across the bridge. So that would be what the min-pass might be if that is one of the options. And then we know the right shoulder option for bus rapid transit. Years back, we put them grates in that bridge, or asked the county to, and MnDOT, when they did the grate upgrades to make them carry the capacity so the buses could actually drive over them. So it looks like, there's a good possibility that there's capacity on both sides for a couple of different options. Which one is picked, we don't know yet. They're looking at a study of who's going to use it, where do you get your best efficiencies and all that stuff. So it was a pretty good discussion, actually, and then we looked at the Wisconsin study that's going on. 169 down by St. Peter's finished. Matheson Construction did it, and they were there to do a presentation along with the folks from St. Peter. That road that always washes out. Really nice road. I mean, if you drive that road, it's like a really pretty route. But I guess it was so much muck and water coming through the hill down into the river through the construction that it was just like pretty interesting how they managed to do it. There's a lot of fill they had to bring in, so it was a good meeting. Just thought I'd update you on our issue over here.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Thank you very much. Couple things here. I've been up at the playground many days, not as many as Councilmember Luce, but it looks real good. I did attend the county certification of the election results the other day. I also met with some faith-based groups. Today I met with Elliot Johnson, the new coordinator for Main Street. They're changing their name to Downtown Shakopee. And I did, as we mentioned earlier, want to mention the Downtown Shakopee Holiday Festival this Friday, December 2nd at 6 to 8 p.m. And that is my report. Councilor Whiting?
Thank you. No liaisons the past couple weeks. I did meet with a couple of folks from the downtown business group and got the chance to meet Mr. Johnson. Looks like we got some great opportunities with our new Main Street Downtown Shakopee program. Excited about that. And I was able to attend the opening of the soft opening of the inclusive playground, and looks like a lot of fun, and a lot of kids are having some fun, and it's gonna be a great asset for Lions Park. That's all I have.
I didn't have any liaison either, but going down to the playground has been a lot of fun to watch those kids and how excited they are and happy they are, and seeing the pictures on Facebook too has been great. Also met with some manufacturing businesses in Shakopee last Thursday. I was invited in behalf of my employer, and so it was nice to meet with the manufacturing businesses and see what they need here in Shakopee as far as trainings and, you know, those types of issues that are going on for them. We talked a little bit about transportation too, so.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Reynolds?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one thing. You know, when we all go to vote, we think it's a very easy process. We walk in, we get our ballot, we go into the booth, and then we go mark it, and we turn it in. I can tell you it's not. And we're very fortunate here in that we have a tremendous staff, both at Public Works and at the clerk's office, that work to put this together. As somebody, you know, I don't know all the steps that go into it, but I can tell you that both Lori and Heidi from the clerk's office spent a lot of time in the basement with the machines, getting them ready. Spent a lot of time here getting the election judges ready. They all have to be trained. And I just wanted to put a special word out and a word of thanks to Lori, Heidi, Jamie Tyson, Public Works, and all the hard work that they did to make this election go as smoothly as it did. I went and visited every polling place on Election Day and was excited to see how smooth things were going. A few hiccups, that's to be expected, but even those were handled with great aplomb. We really did well, and I just want to make sure that they're recognized for that.
Thank you for that, Mr. Allen.
And thank your staff.
That's all I have.
Counselor Lehman?
Command staff is important, no doubt about it. Command staff isn't nothing without the workeries. So you got all the election judges to thank also.
Yes. And that was my reason for going to each polling place. I personally thank the election judges because if it wasn't for them and the work that they put in, and it's hard to find them. Mayor, if you'll remember, during our Night to Unite, I was out there soliciting election judges as we were going from place to place to place, and that was because at that point we still had some openings that we were trying to fill. So they are critically important to the operation.
Important, and it's also a great learning experience to learn about the process behind the scenes. You know, we think as a voter, you fill out your ballot and you put it in the machine and you get a sticker. There's a lot more to it, and obviously the staff. But I was election judge with my wife many years ago, and just to understand and behind the scenes process, you gain a real perspective in the integrity of the election. Second to none. I think Scott County, I think City of Shakopee does a outstanding job in that area, and thank you very much.
Yeah, I was an election judge 2 cycles ago also, and yeah, you do a nice job keeping everybody together.
Thank you, everybody. Item 11, other business before this council.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And,
Okay.
and for those that
Turkey at your house?
may not celebrate Thanksgiving, them just have a happy day.
Well, be thankful
Absolutely.
for all that we have. Councilor Luce?
I would like to make an apology to staff. I've been pushing very hard on the playground, been kind of tunnel focused. I probably stepped on a few toes. If anybody feels that way, please come forward and tell me, and I will apologize in person. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
I gotta find you a new playground to work on.
I'm going to take a little vacation.
Any other business before this council? If not, Councilor Lehman?
Motion adjourned to December 6th, 7 p.m.
Second.
I have a second by Councilor Luce. Further discussion? Let's be thankful and happy Thanksgiving. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Meeting's adjourned at 8:05.
Copy or not?